Bobby Irwin. Three minutes. Yeah. Yeah. Not much longer. Drew a second. Hey, Drew.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Today is May the 15th, and if you would, stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time, this opportunity, for all that you do, Lord Jesus. Lord, we just ask you, Lord, for peace and guidance and understanding and wisdom, and guide our hands, Lord, to do the best we can, to honor you and bless our county. In thy name, Jesus. Amen.
Thank you. Next, I need approval of the agenda, and I believe there's no changes.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Drew, we okay?
Yeah, we're good.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. Need a motion and a second for the minutes from our 5-1 work session, 5-1 our retreat on 5-4, and you've had those in your packets for a few days. I need a motion and a second if there's no changes to be added.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. Then we move to public comments, and anybody in the audience have a comment, now's the time to come up for public comments. And we'll remind everyone that there's 3 minutes, and the clerk will run a clock. With about 15 seconds to go, I'll sort of wave my hand and let you know if you need that. So come to the microphone and state your name, please.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Parker.
Pull that mic.
Sorry.
There you go.
Sorry, thank you, I'm short.
Wait just a second till
Yes,
Drew
sir.
gets going. Ready. Go ahead.
All right, sorry. So my concern is about the animals that are on Walnut Branch Road. I drove by there last week and seen that the cows weren't taken care of, and I've done my research and seen that the gentleman that owns the property has a lot of property, and there was debris and cows, and I have pictures also of these animals, the cruelties. This is not something that just has begun. This is something that's been going on for a long period of time. My concern is also about him too and his welfare. Not only that the environment, the property, and the animals. The animals, some of them have been rehomed. I don't know where they went to. I have reached out to several people, and they don't want to be involved in it, but the animals have been taken off the property. So far, I've done my research. There's been 15 dispositions of domestic animal and 3 felonies cruelty to animals. And this is just from like May 23rd. He'll be going to court on May 23rd. I know the gentleman was arrested this past weekend. I just have a lot of concern to the environment and also for Mr. Mitchell's well-being. I don't know where the animals were taken. He's got a lot of property around the county and in Virginia. I don't even know if somebody helped them and take those to another different property and just hide them, but it's an on-continue thing. And I've also learned that Mr. Mitchell is not allowed to be buying cattle. I know his sister bought some last year. Last year, or the past winter, he just bought salvage. There was no hay. I have offered and put a post on Facebook, which I'm sure a lot of people is aware of that. I've gotten a lot of people's response to wanting to give them salt and protein and for free and give and hay, which he has said no, it was none of my business, which I think it is. So I was hoping that maybe we all could pull together and stop this from happening from here on forward. That's really my main concern, so.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else wish to speak at the public comments? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close that comment section. Thank you. Section A is a consent agenda. Where's Rita? Do you have something to add to this?
Good morning.
Morning.
The only thing to add, I did not have the license plate numbers for you when I printed this, and so the amount, we had 2,629 transactions in the month of April for total to the county of 4,808.09. That was it.
That was it? Mm-hmm. We have the brief description from Rita and need a motion on the rest of the consent agenda in a second.
Motion to approve the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, go to section B, presentations to the board. Resolution requesting a section of Highway 21 be named in the honor of Robert E. Bob Black, Jr. That's on page 17, and I will defer that to County Manager Michael Carter.
Chairman, members of the board, you have a resolution before you for information at this meeting relating to the consideration of a resolution. I've been asked to read this resolution. What I would also identify prior to is upon the consideration of this, I know that there have been questions regarding if this designation. So if the board would like for me to read the resolution, I will certainly do so.
Please do.
The Alleghany County Board of Commissioners resolution requesting a section of Highway 21 be named in the honor of Robert E. Bob Black, Jr. A resolution requesting a section of Highway 21 from Roaring Gap Country Club to the Blue Ridge Parkway overpass be named in honor of Robert E. Bob Black, Jr. Whereas Robert E. Bob Black, Jr. was born on May 14, 1930 in Piney Creek, North Carolina, and whereas Mr. Black completed his path of higher education by receiving a bachelor's degree in agriculture from North Carolina State University in 1953, and whereas Mr. Black, upon completing his educational journey, enlisted in the U.S. Army, where he served his country from 1953 until 1955, whereas Mr. Black, upon completing his service to the country, joined the Lowe's Company in 1955 and retired from the company in 1975 after achieving the title of Vice President of Purchasing, and whereas Mr. Black also served as President of the North Carolina State University Alumni Association and was an active supporter and participant in many collegiate activities and functions. And whereas Mr. Black was later honored in his lifelong dedication and service, receiving the highest civic award presented in North Carolina, the Order of the Longleaf Pine. And whereas Mr. Black, along with others, was instrumental in the purchasing and revitalization of the Alleghany News and the construction of the Alleghany Inn. Whereas Mr. Black's philanthropic activities included service to many community organizations, local churches, the Alleghany County Fairgrounds, and a founding member of the board of the Alleghany Educational Founding, while also assisting Alleghany residents by delivering food, medicine, financial support, and transportation to those in need. And now, therefore, the Alleghany County Board of Commissioners does hereby support and request the North Carolina Department of Transportation designate the stretch of Highway 21 in Alleghany County from the Roaring Gap Country Club to the Blue Ridge Parkway overpass as the Robert E. Bob Black Jr. Highway.
Thank you. This resolution is being presented as that's a presentation. If there's any comments or questions, now we would entertain those, and then this would be voted on in our June meeting. Is there any comments or questions about this resolution? John?
You know, my disappointment is that we only get it whenever we get the board package. It seems that this should have been a discussion between the board members prior to the resolution being typed up. Now, I support it, but this is something that I think that we should have discussed at a work session prior. I would like to point out to the citizens of Alleghany County that there is an ordinance in Alleghany County that says that we will not name a road or highway with an individual's name. That means first and last. You will find that there are roads around the county that do have family names on it, such as Irwin Grocery Road. But the ordinance states we will not use first and last names, I am told. Mary, did I misstate that? Is Mary down here? I checked with her this morning. This will not apply to that ordinance because it is a federal highway, so it will be under federal jurisdiction.
Any other comments or questions?
I don't see why we have
Go
to
ahead,
name.
Greg.
I don't see why we have to name the road after anybody. There's a lot of people in this county deserve something named after them, but just pick out one individual. I don't think you need to put nothing on Highway 21.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, this item will be carried over to our June the 1st, or June the 5th, our first meeting in June, which is June the 5th. And that will be on the agenda for action. Any other comments? Thank you. We'll move on to the next item. Is April Ham, Human Resources.
And I'm going to ask if we can rearrange just a little bit our recipient of the retirement honor, and he's not here yet, so Can we do the finance report first and maybe give him a couple more minutes? Will that work?
I have no objections. Mr. Chair, recommend that we proceed as requested.
Okay. The finance report I handed out just before the meeting. Year-to-date revenue, $18,097,709.20. Year-to-date expenditures, $15,120,675.32. And our approved general fund budget for this current fiscal year, $18,412,892. Year-to-date revenue represents 98% of the budget. Year-to-date expenditures represents 82% of the budget, and we're about 88% into the budget year. Bank balance as of this morning, and that should be this morning. I did not change that date, so it should be 5/15. Sorry about that. $14,555,197.77. In our public savings account, $5,138,580.40 for a total of $19,693,778.17. As compared to last year's bank balance in May was $15,259,877.01, and bank balance 2 years ago in May, $8,860,284.94. Our net financials, as represented by the year-to-date revenue and expenditures, $2,977,033.88, and then our audited fund balance as of fiscal year '22 is $9,067,926. Can I answer any questions about the finance report?
Any questions or comments? Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. The second page is sales tax, the local sales tax. Year-to-date, $977,972.59. What we received in May for actual month of February was $75,507.30. Year ago, in May, for February's allowance, we had received $840,982.50 as of that date a year ago, but the sales tax was up a little bit in February of last year, and I included that at $88,068.01. But we still are running ahead for the fiscal year for sales tax.
Michael?
I think it's important, going back on the financial report, it's important to look at that $5,138,580 number, and if you compare that to your April, you see that we're gaining about $12,500 interest off that money. So I think probably in the next few months, it's something we ought to revisit on the possibility of moving some additional funds into that account.
Sheriff, I may.
Go ahead, John.
That question, prior to coming up with that question, one question that I will ask you, is there any debt that we could pay off?
The debt load that the county has, we have gotten over the hump, I guess I would put it that way. Most of the remaining debt is either at a 0% interest, or the interest rates are lower than what we are looking at today, and the amount of years, most of those are in the 2 to 5 year range. So it really, when you add it up, it really doesn't do much to refinance those loans.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions or comments?
Okay. And just the last page, the quarter-cent sales tax option that was put in place this fiscal year, we have received $146,883.18, and the February allocation, I did include that, $24,384.09. So it went down just a little bit from what we had been receiving for the first few months.
Questions, comments? Thank you, April.
And with the finance update this morning, I also wanted to give you an update. We did have an on-site visit from the auditors a couple weeks ago, the first week of May. There is a couple of things we're going to have to change with procedures. In the budget, we have unappropriated fund balance line expense and the tower expense that was paid directly out of that. Moving forward, you may see more line item transfers from me coming to the board for these new procedures. So if we're paying up front for something that we know we have grant funds coming in to reimburse, we're going to move those funds from that line to the respective department where they need to go. So if I can answer any questions about that, I will.
It's just you just have to make a few changes in reporting.
It's just some internal procedures that we're going to be changing, but the board may see more line item transfers from me at the board meetings, yes. Just wanted to let the board
Questions or
know that.
comments? Hey, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. We're honoring a retiree this morning, and he was supposed to be here, and I actually reminded his wife, too, so. Jeff Miller in the detention center has served 10 years with the county, and Captain Abernathy is actually here this morning, too, to honor him. We want to give our appreciation to Jeffrey Webb Miller. He's commonly known as Webb with people that grew up with him. My husband knows him as Webb. For 10 years of dedicated service to Alleghany County, today, May the 15th, 2023. Webb actually started his career with the county April 2nd, 2013. He was a non-certified detention officer when he started with the county. Received his certifications within a year. Worked on night shift for a little while, and then got transferred today with John. And I know John shared with me this morning, he's not only a coworker, he's a good friend with Jeff. He's retiring as a lieutenant detention officer, and we'd like to honor him this morning. So would you like to add anything else, John? No? Okay.
Have him come up.
Well, Jeff's not here. This is John.
I mean, take a picture of you giving it for him.
Well, we can do that. Are you okay?
Next, be David Spicer. Facilities update.
Mr. Chairman, Board, I thank you for allowing me an opportunity to come and share a few things with you. First thing I want to point out that we do have the new television there that has been installed for the viewing of the audience and keeping up with some of the things that the board presents and does. The only other thing at the administration building right now that we're looking at is painting the parking lot, the upper level parking lot, so look for that to be restriped in the near future as soon as the weather holds off long enough for us to do that. So we'll be restriping that upper parking lot. At the transfer facility, so they have come this morning, so the temporary tip and floor has begun. So that is going on now. We also had in our report from DEQ a little bit of an oil spill there at the waste oil barrel. The barrel's been missed a little bit. You know, we've got a pretty good sized funnel there, but would ask people if they would to please be more cautious and distribute the oil that they pour in the barrel to make sure that they get it in our waste oil barrel. That's something that we provide for them to be able to get rid of the oil where they change out their vehicles. So I would ask that they do that. That's going to cost the county between $8,000 and $10,000. So we're going to have to get that oil spill up and send the dirt to Winston. So that's going on in case somebody says something to you about that. To transfer facility also, we had 0 loads of commingle. We've got one that's close. We've had 1 load of cardboard that went down, and then there's a load on its way down now. So that'll be reported next month. We did have 12.02 tons of scrap metal that we took to the yard, which yielded the county $2,576.90. So That's an improvement there. 90 South Main, the sidewalks there in front are going to be poured this week so that the access to the building will have access front and back once again. So they're taking care of that this week and moving right along with the project. We also went into soil and water and took the wall out there, so that's been taken care of, and I would like to thank all of the folks who came and participated in the demolition of the wall and soil and water. We're in the process now of fixing the ceiling back, so that'll all be looking good in a day or two. With the flooring, we're in the process of taking care of the flooring and putting in new flooring there in the soil and water. So all of those things is moving right along and still on schedule. At the BDC, I mentioned about the new awning. Last time, the new awning for the BDC entrance door is up, and it looks good. A new floor for the biology lab has been put down. They're working today on a new floor in room 205. We had some more loose tiles in there, and when they got in to taking up the tiles, realized that they was more loose than what we had anticipated. So we're redoing the complete floor there in room 205. We have had a request that we paint the cement portion of the parking lot light post. So we've had an accident there. Actually, there's been a few accidents where people have run into the lamp post there, the cement part. So we're going to paint those yellow, so hopefully they'll be able to see those. We are pretty much up to date on most all of the rest of the facilities, and things is moving along there, aside from some of the repairs that we had talked about in previous time. I do want to inform the board that our new ambulance is in process of being completed. The paintwork's done, the box is on the back, so we're waiting on the wiring and the lights and the graphics, and hopefully we're still on schedule for that to be delivered by the 1st of June, so looking forward to that. Animal control, this time we've had 57 calls. So we had 12 where we assisted the sheriff's office, 5 in livestock, 9 well-being checks. We picked up 3 dogs and or cats, had 9 running at large. We had 6 attacks that was, some of them that were actually bites to humans. So we quarantined all 6 of those. We'd set 4 traps, which yielded 4. Each time we set a trap, they yielded animals. So the time was, we had 119 hours and traveled 593 miles. So that's all I have. If you have any questions for me.
John, go ahead.
You've heard the mention of the cattle.
Yes, sir.
Could you give us an update to county involvement with that, please?
Well, the county involvement in that has been that the sheriff's department had issued a warrant for his arrest, arrested him on cruelty to animals with the accounts on the cattle. So he was arrested Friday. They did he did get bonded out. So he is not in jail at this time. The 2 donkeys was the part that the animal control had anything to do with. We went to charge him with that, and also for the 15 that was not buried. So those charges have been filed as well. So those are fines too. But as of to date, the fines have yet not been paid, so we're still working on that. As it turns out, the donkeys actually got gone from there before we was able to do all of that. They are somewhere I will not say where they are, somewhere where they are being well taken care of. And it is a farm where there is more than just those 2 donkeys. So those 2 donkeys, there is a farrier coming on the 30th, and those donkeys will be taken care of. They're being well fed, well watered, and she's taming them up. So all of that, with that, I don't know where the part for the sheriff's department is as of right now. I do know that some of the cattle are gone from the property. I do not know where they went. And that's the sheriff's department's part. So,
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we have another case where we are caring for animals, and that is because the district attorney has told the county that these are, those animals are evidence in the case, and the county is forced to take care of them, correct?
that is correct. We have,
Just a yes or no, because we don't want to get involved with that.
we have some dogs.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, the other question that I have is the repairs for Wilkes Community College.
Yes.
That's coming out of the county budget.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask the county manager, in the future, if we take over the BDC, do you anticipate taking that out of the funds that will be transferred to the county? $223,000 that they have at the BDC.
I think it's something to look at. I can't give you a confirmation because I don't know the full scope of that yet, but I think it is something to look at.
So we could transfer some of that maintenance obligation from the county and use funds that are sitting in a bank account right now, hopefully.
As I said, I attended a meeting of the BDC last week, and I think they're still looking at a few different things, but it's something to look at.
Very well. That's all the questions I have. Thank you, David, for the
Yes.
job that you do. Please pass to your staff. They're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Greg,
David, how big is that waste oil barrel at the landfill?
It's 500 gallons.
For $8,000, can't we buy an oil barrel with a self-contained basin on it?
It does have a
It
self-contained
does,
basin.
and it's still overflowed?
It's not overflow. There where the barrel is, they're pouring it on the ground versus pouring it in the barrel, and it is in a secondary containment.
Okay, I just want to see if it's in one.
Yeah, it is it's in secondary containment.
go ahead, Michael.
Just 2 things. One, and I know we've talked about it before, but the arm at the scale house.
Yes, we've looked at that, and I would have to confirm for sure. I told them to go ahead and order it. I'd have to confirm for sure the ship date on that or delivery date. So that should have already been ordered.
Just as a continued reminder to the public.
Yes, we are going to install a stop arm there at the scales. So that's on the entrance to the transfer facility. So that every vehicle that comes through there, instead of coming through without stopping or anything else, will have to stop each time they go across the scales. That allows us time to make sure that you've got your county sticker for your solid waste tax. It also allows us time to review what you are bringing into the facility itself, and instructions can be given then on to where these items need to be taken. We do have items that is put out in places that is incorrect, which takes time away from our staff to have to straighten all that out. So if people would help us and be cognizant of that we are going to be stopping cars each time that they come in to the facility with the instructions given as to where they need to take things.
Second thing is just a brief update on our EMS staffing.
As of right now, we're back up full staff. We interviewed Friday, offered the job, the full-time position to a paramedic who actually right now works full-time at Wilkes. So he's going to come. His first day is the 30th of this month. So we have another paramedic from Wilkes who has agreed to accept a position of full-time. He starts on the 23rd. Also Friday, we interviewed another paramedic from Wilkes to work part-time, and he's accepted that job. So when we come around to May the 30th, we'll be back up to full staff with the exception of the 3 basics. Back all the rest of the staff will be full-time paramedics. We do have 3 basics that are working. We'll have 1 on each shift. One of our part-time EMTs has accepted a position there and full-time, has signed a contract, and is already in the process of getting her applications put in for school. So all 3 of those are in search of their paramedic certifications. So we're looking to be within the next year or so being fully staffed back in all trucks as full-time paramedics.
David, I got a couple questions for you. On the, back on the cattle, were there any reported dead cattle on the property?
That was the 15 that we've charged for, yes.
What was done with those cattle?
They were collected and taken to the transfer facility.
Will that cost be passed on to the landowner?
He has been fined.
He's been fined, but my question was,
His
with
fines,
the fine, will it also be charged with the disposal fee?
he should have paid the disposal fee when he took the animals to the transfer facility, so that would not be part of the fines.
You know if he paid those fees?
I haven't asked.
Okay. Was the state veterinarian called on this project?
Yes,
Did he show up here?
she did, yes.
Okay. What about the burros? Now, I know that they've gone to a good location, being well treated, or hooves being trimmed, and what will happen with those once they're in good shape?
They will remain where they are,
They will not be returned to the landowner?
not without the court ordering so.
With our animal ordinance, do you think that we need to revise, or is it time to look at it again to tweak it a little bit?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any recommendations yet?
No, not at this time. The smaller animals, we are pretty good shape on. As far as the ordinance is concerned, I think we need to look at the larger animal part of the ordinance.
I believe that committee was headed by John Irwin. Would you be willing to accept that challenge again, to look at revisions as we go forward?
Without objections from my fellow commissioners, I don't want to be removed.
And we'll just have the same committee, if that's okay with the commissioners. That was the original. We'll have a sit-down, I think, with David and with Michael, and I'm sure Heather will have to be involved in it. And I don't know if, I think we should also look to Dr. Williams to have some input into that.
Yes,
Okay.
most definitely.
Is there any other questions? Go ahead, Michelle.
I would just like for the public to understand that when they make a report, it's not like we can just swoop in there that moment and load up somebody's animals and haul them away. It involves the state government. It involves a veterinarian from the state. It's not a simple process. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Not that we don't want to help the animals, it's just that we're bound by law.
Law. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comments or questions?
I do have.
Go ahead, John.
Getting off the animal subject.
Okay.
Documents of freedom. You and I discussed this prior to the meeting. You are ready. You have done your part. But do we know if we are going to dedicate on Memorial Day? Has anyone taken action on that? Are you aware?
I have a meeting with Robert on the defeat over the Veterans Park tomorrow morning at 10. I can bring that up with you.
Those documents have been dedicated. The ideal time is Memorial Day, in my opinion. We've already got a ceremony. I believe the Veterans Committee is going to have a ceremony over there. That's traditionally when we do it. Stars are aligning, but somebody needs to observe, I believe. Thank you.
Anything else? Michael, go ahead.
Just to go back, Drew brought it to my attention that the current ordinance committee, and that's what we were talking about with Commissioner John, right?
Yes.
Current ordinance committee is Michelle and Greg. So if John is going to have, what would be the thought process? I'm not trying to create a wrinkle, but that's your current committee.
I go back to when the ordinance was first documented, when we first started on it. I thought that it was just the two.
That was an animal control
Yeah.
ordinance committee, a separate committee.
Two of us.
Yeah.
You and me.
You and I, county manager, the county attorney, and then we brought in expert witnesses to help us with it, Nash and those involved. But I believe that committee went away after we had approved.
It was an ad hoc.
Yeah.
So if you're
We'd have
going
to
to,
reform.
if you're going to do that, then you have to create that.
I would, that's what I was asking, to reappoint that same committee as an ad hoc committee to go back and look at the revisions that David and you and possibly Dr. Williams and two commissioners would have.
Who would be the two commissioners?
Two commissioners,
Who would be the two commissioners?
John Irwin and Bobby Irwin.
Okay.
Those were the originals. If there's no objection from the
What's wrong with
board.
the ordinance we got now, the committee? And you said me and Michelle was on it? I mean, we need to have some input on it.
After the animal control committee had gone through and made the corrections, it would be submitted to the ordinance committee
Okay.
for your approval and then presentation to the full
From
board.
us to y'all, to the full board for a vote. Correct?
Clarify.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'd like to see a copy of this ordinance we got now.
It's on the
Get you
website.
It's
that.
on the website.
Thank you. Dr. Williams, if you'd come up, please.
I just have a couple of clarifications to make.
Come up to the microphone.
Mr. Williams,
Okay, on the ordinance, one problem, but of course, everybody knows we do the shelter for the county. It's all been, I think, a good thing all the way around for everybody. Right now, we're harboring a whole, I don't even know the numbers, but a whole parcel of dogs that were confiscated. These people were charged with animal cruelty. They've gone to court and gone to court and gone to court. We've had all these dogs there. We've battled them through parvo disease, puppy deliveries, you name it. All kind of health problems. That bill is now, and I don't know who's supposed to pay it, but the bill is well over $10,000 on these dogs. The last report we got, the next time I go into court, is in August. Now, if you can imagine how you would deal with that in your own environment, it's been a problem, and we've been handcuffed to it. So that's something to think about. You may want to consider what it's costing the county, or somebody might consider what it's cost us, you know. Of course, we have personnel that know how to deal with it. Okay. I just wanted to make you aware of that. I don't know how many of you are even aware of this deal. But every time we go to court to get an extension for 3 or 4 months, and we're stuck with all of these animals, and they're stuck with us. It's not just that we're stuck with them. They're stuck very under confinement where had we had the flexibility, a lot of these dogs, we would have had homes, good homes for them somewhere. Instead of that, they're in cage confinement. It's not their fault. So think about that a little bit. Okay. In regard to the livestock thing, number one, I'd like to say that the North Carolina State Department of Agriculture is involved in this. They know how to handle these things. They do it all the time. They know what all the state ordinances are. I would lean on them to handle this thing. Another thing is I'm probably been more involved than everybody in this room combined. Feel like I know more about what really goes on than anybody does. Most of those animals, there have been animals that have died. Those animals were not resident animals at that farm that were starved to death. They were stuff that Mr. Mitchell has basically half rescued out of the stockyards that were dying. He should have left them where they were. When they died, he should have buried them. I know all that, okay? The cattle right now turned out on grass. They've got plenty of grass. They've got 400 acres to roam. They're not starving to death, okay? Now, in reference to the donkeys, I can tell you, anybody that has a donkey is having a heck of a time trying to get the feet trimmed. Nobody will do it. Anybody that's ever done one don't want to do another one. It's just like everything else that you're out here trying to get something done. Nobody wants to work. I do know that some effort was made to try to find somebody to trim those feet, which was the biggest handicap that they have, was that their feet's all grown out. I don't know where they are now. I assume they're still all grown out. There are people that I can refer them to that will do that. And, I hate for things to get misrepresented. I do think that everybody should be subjected to the same rule, and whatever that turns out to be is to be. But I'd caution you about trying to influence public opinion and trying anybody on the basis of public opinion when probably no one really knows what is going on anyway. We once had a leader that made the statement that biggest lie in America is I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Sadly, there's some truth to that. And I guess what I would say is maybe the first thing all of us should do always is to first find out if we can help. And I'm going to leave you with that. And consider my dogs. We're tied, we're handcuffed to them, and we don't know what to do. And we can't get any answer from the court except that they're with us. These dogs were, they were Malinois, healers. Most of them dogs we could have found homes for, in other words. But we don't know what to do. All right.
Just a minute, Nash. Heather, do you have any comments about what Nash started out on the dogs and so far what our vet bill is as to how the court's proceeding, that the commissioners, we don't have any control over.
No, and the problem that we end up with is that you've removed the animals because of this cruelty or a charge that they have. I think there's an inherent conflict, and I'm not really sure how we would fix it, because our ordinance does say that when we impound or we take an animal, that there's a certain procedure we have to follow. But then again, we have an issue, which is that the court has not determined that the cruelty, that they've been charged with is actually, now they're getting sentenced with that, or that there's some kind of fine or something from the state. So if we sell or, adopt out an animal before they are actually, there's a verdict on this charge that they have, we've got a problem. So I don't really know how we're going to fix that. And we do have in there that they would pay for the charges, but then again, you're probably looking at someone who can't afford to pay for the charges. So you have a conflict with the whole situation, because you can't get rid of the animal until there's actually been that, the sentence has been issued or that they're guilty, but you're storing the animals or taking care of them and doing all of these things for them. They probably can't pay for it. So I don't know. I think maybe revisiting that and determining if there's something that we can do to update the ordinance with this being an inherent problem. Same thing with livestock. There's some limitations on that, but I'd welcome any suggestions from the state to try to update that ordinance so that we know what our boundaries are and how we're supposed to handle that. But there is an inherent problem that I'm not sure how we're going to fix.
Well,
Mr. Carter, I just want to be sure about the billing process for these for the dogs, that the hospital will be paid, whether it's through the county funds or through the I guess the original owner. The taxpayers are going to have to pay at some point, aren't we? They can't do it for free.
I don't anticipate or expect it to be done for free. I think we have to give the judicial system the opportunity to work it out prior to any commitment outside of that.
Have you submitted a bill or anything on the dogs?
I'm not sure about that. Our problem is these animals come there, they're pregnant, they're sick, they're parasitized, and we have a code of ethics that says if we assume welfare of that animal, that we are required by our code of ethics to do it right, regardless of what that animal's financial state is. If we take the job on, we're supposed to do it right. And we've tried to do it right, but I can tell you it's not been an easy thing. These animals get walked on a leash twice a day. They get taken care of as if they were our own pets. There's not another municipal city or not a municipal shelter in the state of North Carolina that does it. And but we're hung on it, and you guys might do a little thinking on what can be done. Our commitment is to do the best we can with them.
John?
I think it's important to let the public know that this is alleged animal cruelty, and until it's adjudicated, it is alleged.
That is
It's
correct.
got to be proven. Right now, it is alleged, period. So we don't want to condemn anyone. We've used some names, and I would not be surprised if we don't have a court action if we don't watch it. So let's be careful, please.
Go ahead, Greg.
Nash, The way I'm taking it from you, just let the state handle the cattle deal and this county stay out of it, right?
Well, I think that would be I think that these people, they see it all the time. That's what they do. And they're not operating on opinion or sentiment or artificial intelligence or whatever, okay? And I think that the less say-so anybody here, including myself, has to do with it, the better off everybody's going to be in the whole thing, you know. There's all kind of things, as I'm sure Heather can tell you, there's all kind of counteractions that can show up out of this thing. Libel, slander, any incorrectness that gets acted on is setting everybody up for a problem. And, most of us don't need any more than what we got, But yes, that would be my opinion. Let the professionals handle the situation, and I can tell you they'll be harsh enough.
Mr. Chair, I believe you're correct, Nash, but unless I'm wrong, the state of North Carolina is going to expect us to pay the bill. Is that the indication that you've gotten, County Manager, Mr. Carter?
I haven't gotten that specific indication, no.
Doubt if they're going to eat the bill. I have a feeling they'll take care of it, but we may end up getting a bill for it. Just my feelings, don't know. We'll see. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Dr. Williams.
Timmy,
Excuse
go
me.
ahead.
And of course, I may be spitballing here, but while this process is going on about the dogs, I'm not sure if this would be helpful, but ever who's representing these folks that's responsible for these dogs might need to be getting a invoice. The lawyers getting an invoice every month, so they say, hey, here we're going to owe this. Which I know you're not going to get, you may be getting blood out of a turnip. But the thing is, I don't know that the representation of those folks that are going through the court system actually knows what's going on with this bill on these dogs. Which I don't know have you been billing anybody?
I'll have to find out. I honestly don't know. I mean, I try to do a halfway decent job doctoring animals, but I'm no manager.
It was a thought, I guess.
I can, though. I can find out. I've just not asked that question where we sent the bill to.
I just think it'd be wise every time.
The county, I know that the county does get a monthly bill on the regular shelter animals.
Michelle, you got a question, comment?
Well, a lot of this problem lies with state laws. And, being a former probation officer, I saw it happen all the time. If you have a court case, Heather will tell you, you can extend that thing for years sometimes. And, there's not really much that can be done about it because that's your right,
Well, they just keep extending it. And I don't know if it's going to stay there, and we had a parvo outbreak. Anybody that's ever seen one, you don't want to see it again. Puppies that are born shouldn't have ever been born there,
This is a good time to say, too, that, you need to be a good human being and you need to be steward and take care of your animals and feed them and get their shots and don't set them out on the side of the road and just be a good human being.
Well, I'll have to say that has come a long, long way. You know, the first animal control we had, they took them to the dump and shot them, okay? Was not acceptable to most people, including us, you know, and then that's what it's developed to at this point. But, yeah, I agree that you should have a responsibility for that animal.
Nash, I think that's something for Michael to check into on the billing and, see, we've got no control over the court system. So, like you said, this thing could end tomorrow or could drag on for months, if not years. So, we thank you. If there's anything else, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, move on to section C, general business, the Fried Apple Pie Festival review by William Bottomley.
I'll make it short and sweet. How about that? Who would have thought that Fairgrounds Board, all of us is on there. Of course, Randy, Commissioner Luffman, and you too, Chairman, are on that. And we planned for, even though y'all caught the tail end of the planning, but we worked on this for 13 months. And who would have thought 11 to 12,000 people would shown up? I mean, it was something completely unexpected. But you know what? Every business who was open won. Walk up and down Main Street and ask them how was their day? Was another Black Friday? They'll tell you yes. So we're basking on that huge success. Some of the things that we did is our aggressive marketing campaign, and I did some quick numbers. We spent $7,564 in advertising, and a majority of that, 2/3 of it was in radio, and that was WTQR, WIFM, and WKSK. And then 1,400 of it was in print. But all in all, and then nothing on social media, but we just promote it within groups and stuff, and that's, of course, free. But overall, the success of this thing is so huge. We've already set May 4th of next year as the festival. Some of the issues we're working through now is parking, and more parking. So that's something, too, the Fairgrounds needs to look at, all of us together, and find out what we can do to utilize more parking and get more people in, and where greatest need, or get the best bang for your buck at the moment, so we can cram more people in there. But we know that the Fairgrounds doesn't make money, but we bring everybody into this town that does make money. And so each event we have at the Fairgrounds, we need to support them 100%. Of course, Clay Creek Fire Department has one this weekend, Friday and Saturday, and so we need to lend our support to them and all the other events at the Fairgrounds and here in town as well. But overall, with the Fried Apple Pie Festival, never would have thought that 11 to 12,000 people would come out. And yes, we're working on some fried apple pie vendors at the moment, reaching out to some of the churches, and because every church has got a grandmother who can make some good fried pies. So if, let's say, we had 15 churches making 100 pies each as a fundraiser, then that's 1,500 more pies we have. But when you look the amount of crowd that came over the weekend, or that one Saturday, 11,000, and if everybody got 2 pies each, there's no way you make 22,000 fried apple pies. We just know that. But the success of it is huge. It's great. Looking forward to next year. Everybody's support. But we're on the map. We found us something very unique, and we're quite pleased with the results. Any questions?
Good job.
Well, it's a good job on everybody, because not only one person, but it was all of us working together. And that shows that when everybody works together, you have a really good event.
Especially with the advertising. I mean, you bring in 11,000 people and you spend $7,564. Everybody looks at social media, but radio has still got a big voice out there. Good job, William.
Yep,
Thank you.
$7,564 all was spent in advertising. And when you look, I mean, that's what, I did the math here, 69 cents a person. It's unheard of.
Michelle?
I want to say a special thank you, too, to the first responders, the fire departments, the law enforcement who helped with traffic control, too, because it would have been a horrible mess if they didn't.
Sheriff Maines and his wagon train came out. I mean, everybody was, minus a few that didn't get a pie, which that's what, 1%, maybe 2%. But everybody was happy. It was a great festival. It was overall a huge success.
I'd just like to say that everybody was worried about the weather about 3 or 4 days before. Couldn't have asked for a nicer day. I don't know, if people hadn't have planted that little seed that the weather may be bad, we may have had 15,000 people.
That is a good possibility. You know, and that's something we need to look at parking as well. But we went from a 70% chance of rain to 70 degrees and sunny, or what they call a Chamber of Commerce day, in as far as TV meteorologist goes. But yes, I wouldn't be surprised next year we have more than what came out this year.
Or fried apple pies, though. You need more vendors.
More for you
Next year.
More for you to eat, right?
I didn't even get the first one this
Is
year.
that where the pies went? All right, come on, let's confess here.
Any other comments?
Good job, William.
I just think, the county's got 10,800 people. We had more than that come to the fried apple pie contest.
We doubled the county population just in a matter of hours. I can't wrap my head around that happened. It's just hard to believe. It's really hard to believe, but it just shows the success of the event. Everybody coming together on the Fairgrounds board. And not only that, but we found something unique. Who would have thought Grandma's recipe would intrigue 11,000 people to show up?
And I think we had a conversation that you had mentioned. I don't know if for April on the Department of Revenue, if we can track the sales tax for that week or that month that the apple pie contest, but I guarantee you we had a boost for that day, probably for 2 days.
It would be interesting to see the statistics on for April 21st through the May 20th when they come out and do that in comparison of last year and to some other times that we've had events here in town. That'd be very interesting to see that, but I'm quite happy.
Again, thank you. You did a fabulous job. All the volunteers that chipped in really helped.
One other thing to note, we're having our Food Truck Festival July 1st, East Alton Street. Come and eat. It's free.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next is JCPC, the county plan, Brant Wilkinson. There you are.
Good morning.
Morning.
I am Brant Wilkins, the Chief Court Counselor for the 23rd Judicial District for Juvenile Justice. And I was asked to come present the 23-24 fiscal year county plan for Alleghany. JCPC decided this year to fund the Alleghany Alleghany Youth Justice Project, and this has 3 components to it. The first is community service restitution. It's to reduce juvenile crime and recidivism by holding juvenile offenders accountable for their actions and help them serve the community and repair any harm that they've done through charges. The second component is our teen court program, which we've seen to be very successful here in the county. It offers a second chance for juvenile offenders while holding them accountable for their actions through sanctions imposed by their peers, and juveniles who are charged with low-level misdemeanor crimes as first-time offenders are the ones that get referred to the teen court program. All other cases would be approved and go through regular juvenile court. And then the third component, which is a new component to be funded this year, is the Girls Circle and Boys Council. And the goal of this program is to increase resiliency, school attachment, educational expectations, confidence, self-efficacy. This program is designed to decrease aggression, harmful beliefs, as well as alcohol and drug use for all participants. So we we came up with these types of programs, and it was posted through our request for proposals based on the risk and need scores that we've seen through the assessments that Mr. Stoker, our juvenile court counselor, does with the young people that come through his office, and then posted on the county website that RFP for programs, and decided that the Alleghany Youth Justice Project, those three components are what we needed here. The funding for this, if you have seen the county funding plan, it appears that $69,774 will be provided by Department of Public Safety for JCPC funds, and that breaks down to $62,869 to go to Alleghany Youth Justice Project, and $6,905 to go to our JCPC administrative assistant. And that 6905 number is divided amongst all 4 counties in the 23rd district. So 6905 is the same number that Ashe is going to see, same number that Wilkes will see, and the same number that Yadkin County will see for that administrative assistant. The local in-kind that is being provided by the Children's Center of Northwest North Carolina is $10,662, and then there is the 20% county match that I think has historically been done in the amount of $12,573 for a total budget of $93,009. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Michelle? Good. Michael, any questions? And Heather? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Next is Daniel Roten on our EOP updates.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about our emergency operations plan. And I'm sure most of you guys all know that's the plan that is developed that kind of dictates how we respond to large-scale emergencies and disasters. In the past, it had been brought up by the board that, we might have some appetite for refreshing that plan. Of course, it's older than my tenure with the county is. Doesn't mean it wasn't valid, it just needs updating. So, the state, a little while back, issued some grant funds to each of the councils of government around the state, with the directive that those funds were to be used helping the counties develop plans of different natures. Mr. Corey Osborne with the High Country COG sent an email out asking, or inquiring if some of us would like to have certain plans developed. So of course I jumped on that. So they went ahead and developed an RFP and sent that out to several vendors around the state. Subsequently, they have awarded that contract to On Target Preparedness, which is the proposal that you have in front of you, of course with my input as well. It's important to note that the COG will be directly administering all the funds for this. The county's involvement in this will be more as an advisory type role to make sure the things we want in there are going to be in there. But the funding and all the administrative stuff will be handled by the COG. The total cost of that project is just a bit less than $19,000, and they have a year to develop it. So hopefully, around a little bit before this time next year, we'll have a shiny new emergency operations plan that addresses all the needs that we want to address and is completely in compliance with state and federal guidance. So, that's really all I've got to add on that, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
John?
Just to make sure, this would be a tailored plan.
Yes, sir. It's not just a cookie cutter plan.
Because right now, we've got a plan for rail derailment, a dam breaking, or an airplane crash for Alleghany County.
And we could have any of those except for probably the rail car.
But yes, but we don't have an airport for the crash. Now, I mean, we may have a crash, but we don't have an airport.
But yes, they will, of course, be working with me directly.
Good, thank you.
The consultant that they have assigned to the project, I personally know. He's a retired emergency management director from the eastern part of the state. So,
and I've worked together before, I believe.
Any other questions? Michael? Good luck, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, April, you're back up, personnel.
Good morning again.
Morning.
In your packs, you do have the entire personnel policy with the changes that were incorporated from the 3 work sessions that we had. We ended up having 2 and then talked some additional about a couple of things. I will say we've had a couple of comments. This was sent out to all the department heads last week. And we've had a couple of comments about the cargo pants in the section where we're talking about being professional and what not to wear. There's been a couple of questions about that. My suggestion is either to clarify it as it's the baggier cargo pants, which is kind of what I was thinking when we were redoing this, that has the tie waist, or we can just take it out. Either way. I did incorporate the section about the sick leave that we talked additionally about, that the county manager had final approval about possibly accepting some additional sick leave from folks coming from other areas for retirement. I did find a grammatical error in one page, I believe it's page 14 that I have fixed. And on the examples regarding grooming, there's some personal hygiene, makeup, perfume, cologne, hairstyles, jewelry, and tattoos. And this is actually page 30 of the policy. I would like to add just a sentence at the end of that the department head will make the final decision on that section. Because some of these things just don't apply if you're not face-to-face with public. I mean, I think the department head needs to have the final decision on that, is what I would like to add to that section, if nobody has any.
Objections, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Michelle, questions, comments? Michael?
Okay. So I will make those few tweaks, and it'll come back to the board on June the 5th for final approval. Okay.
Anything else?
That's all I have, unless anybody has any
Questions?
further questions. Okay.
Thank you for
Thank
writing
you.
down. Looks like item 5, go through the fee schedules. Does anybody need a break or anything?
I'm good.
We'll keep going. Move on to the fee schedules. Mr. Carter,
What we wanted to do today, as we've done in the past, is have each department that has a fee structure within their budget basically identify any changes, or if they are going to remain the same for the upcoming year. They are here today to talk about that. This historically, fee structures have been adopted when you adopt your budget. So we wanted to make this presentation in advance of your public hearing and in advance of your consideration of the budget. So they're here today to talk about that. So with that said, I think we can kick it off.
want to go with Tiffany.
Good morning. I'm here today to present the Alleghany in Motion fee schedule for fiscal year '24. There is no changes to our fee schedule. We do receive Rural Operating Assistance Program funding and a 5310 grant. These two things are provided by the state, and they allow us to provide transportation at a reduced rate.
Questions?
Questions? I've got just one. looking at the VA hospitals or clinics, the Winston-Salem's a $20 trip, and Whiffle's a $20 trip. What's the formula to come up with the cost?
Mileage is what we base those off of. And the Winston trip is usually coordinated, it's the Kernersville VA, but we usually coordinate it with a Winston-Salem trip.
Okay. That was it. Thank you. John?
That brings up a question because some of us receive reimbursement for travel.
Some do, some don't.
Yeah. Do you make provisions of that? Do you have any way of identifying?
We do. If they can get documentation that they do not receive travel reimbursement,
Thank
then
you.
we can reduce it.
Thank you. That's all the questions. Thank you.
Anybody? Okay, thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you.
Next, is that emergency medical services?
Mr. Chairman, Board, on our EMS fee schedule, I have done some changing on that this time. We received a email from our billing company who identified that we were not charging enough. So we was looking at the Medicare reimbursement, and this is what's recommended and allowed by Medicare. So I went with that, and there was a 15% increase that could have taken effect, but we wanted to go with the minimum for now. So with that in your package, you find that those things, and there is some additional charges that can be charged. First and foremost, I want to identify a typographical error that is online advanced life support ALS emergency. There's an extra 4 on the front of that, so that would actually be $494 instead of $4,494. So the other items, we went advanced life support went from $575 to $712. Specialty care transport went from $550 to $712. Those are the same because they require the same amount of education and the same amount of supplies to do those two individual things. We have added the treatment no transport. This would be billed to a patient, provided that they don't go to the hospital. We go and run these patients who are sick, administer medications, and then they don't come around, or they do come around and won't go to the hospital with us. We need to be reimbursed at least for some of the supplies that we use. The DOA transport, that right now was $115. Medicare allows $416. So with that would be a significant increase there. But transport for a medical examiner, this is $170. That again is $115, I believe, and that needs to be increased to the allowed amount that can be reimbursed to the county. So with this being said, and with our new billing company that we have put on, we have at this time they have already billed $352,207 for regular insurance, and there is $220,000 plus that is awaiting bill to Medicare. So they're collecting right now at a rate of 91.7%, which is unheard of for this. So we have had some revenue that's coming back into the county. So this is a good thing.
Questions? Could you just go over the transport for the medical examiner, exactly what is that?
This is when we transport a patient who has deceased. So the decedent from the scene that has made a medical examiner case. Not all DOAs are medical examiner cases. So this $170 is what's reimbursed to us from the state of North Carolina to transport a decedent from the scene to the morgue.
The state pays us back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's on the life support, and what's the maximum distance that you'll travel to transport somebody to a facility?
85 miles.
Beyond 85 miles, what happens?
They need to find wherever they're going to. If it's Duke University, they have transport services. They would come and get those patients.
Sort of walk through this with me a little bit. What's the hospital's responsibility to transport a patient to another facility versus what the county's responsibility is?
It is a responsibility of the hospital to arrange transport for those patients to a facility other than their own. We as the county try to provide that service with them. They are to exhaust all other means of transport services before we are actually called. We as the county have 2 ALS units, those advanced life support units, that cover this county, and when we take those out of service for a 3-hour trip, then that's 3 hours that there's possibly no coverage from Alleghany County EMS. I know the rescue squad backs us up, and they do a wonderful job with that. But we, as a service for the county, need to provide service for the county.
So it's actually the hospital's responsibility to provide transportation. They're the primary,
Yes,
then we're the secondary.
yes.
Then the rescue squad chips in if we can't do it.
Yes, but not for out-of-town trips.
Not for out of town.
Only in-town emergencies.
Okay. Any questions? Michael?
Just a comment, David. I may have missed it. The first 4, the basic life support, BLS, the emergency, and the 2 advanced life support numbers, are those staying the same or are they going up?
The ALS, as far as that goes, is increased.
The 260 for basic life support, the 416 for basic life support emergency, the 312 for advanced non-emergency, and the 494 for the ALS.
All of them have increased with that. All of those have increased, and I rounded up. There was some change in there, but I did round up with that to make them even numbers. Yeah.
You can see what it was compared to what's presented today.
Right.
Thank you. And the second thing, and I just wrote rough numbers down. You mentioned about 350-some thousand billed and another 220 waiting on Medicare.
Yes, sir.
And if the board remembers, this is through third party. So I just run it on the 350 number. I think it's 6% is what we pay this company.
Yes.
So for billing that 350, and that's just a rough number, it's about $21,000.
Yes.
So what we're bringing in with this 90+% certainly is covering that cost, which is what the intention was.
Yes.
What happens to the cost that's not recovered?
I would imagine that there's a write-off procedure that goes through, but David, you would confirm that.
Yes, that is correct. It would be a write-off procedure that takes place in that.
That write-off comes back to the county.
Yes, but every effort is made to collect that before that happens.
You have a different way of collecting that now. You know, the prior procedures aren't taking the same route as this new third-party procedure's taking.
Thank you. Any other questions on the emergency medical services? If not, I assume you're still up. Solid waste.
I'm still up. So, the solid waste, as far as the transfer facility is concerned, the fees pretty much are going to stay the same, with the most notable difference is that we are no longer going to be charging by the yard. We're going to be charging by weight. So with the new stop arm there at the scale house, we weigh everything that comes across the scale. We have met with our transporters, and they have all agreed that they feel like this is something that could work. So we're going to charge by the weight and not by the yard. We have to send our waste out by the weight. That's what we're charged with.
John, question?
I would make a recommendation back on page 101. We're talking about fees that are delinquent. That last sentence, it says they may be attached to the property owner's bill. I would suggest, Mr. Chair, that that may be changed to will.
Heather?
I don't know, I'm not sure what the statute would be on, changing it from may to will. I know that we do have a procedure for that already, so I don't think it's going to be a problem, for solid waste. It's a good question for Rita, and I know we've already talked about it before, and I'm sure, I think it's allowable. I just don't know the statutory reference right off the
You're
top of my head.
doing it right now.
Yeah.
But whenever you say may, the property owner says, well, they may bill me, they may not. But whenever we say we will, then it gets their attention.
Michael?
David, just too, if you would comment on how this change will change the way that we do billing. And basically, it eliminates our third-party billing as well.
Yes, it does. With that, in our billing process, we will charge the transporter for the weight instead of charging the individual businesses for those dumpsters that they have now. Those dumpsters that they have now is being charged by the yard. So with that, then it would be the responsibility of the transporter to figure out how their ability to charge these people. So with that, we charge for the container that comes across that's on the back of a garbage truck. We pay our service fee per ton. We're going to charge them per ton, and then it would be their responsibility to change the way they do their billing and charge the customer for that part instead of us.
You say per ton, do you round it off or?
It's whatever it is. The scale weighs it, and whatever the number on the scale is.
By pound?
Yes, by a pound.
Not by ton. When you
Yes,
say by ton, I
Yes.
didn't know if it was 200 pounds over, if you round it off, or.
Whatever
but
it
it's
is,
by pound.
is 2 point whatever tons it is. That's what.
There's a calculation that takes that percentage to it.
Any other questions, comments? Heather, you got one to check on. Okay?
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you, David.
Travis?
Good morning.
Morning.
Almost evening. I've talked with Tony, and she's the one that deals with most of the people when they get permits, and as of now, unless y'all have any questions, everything seems to be doing good, holding them at the same.
John?
Down at the bottom where it says that we will be charging 40.5 cents per mile, Mr. Chair, I would recommend that we change that to the current IRS, Internal Revenue Service mileage charge. Right now, it's my understanding, they're allowing 62 cents a mile.
That's what I've heard.
So we're giving up 22 cents a mile right there. And that way, if we change that to the current IRS mileage rate, we don't have to change it every year.
We go by the federal, or do we go by the state, or how did this 40 and a nickel come in?
I do not know. That was here when I came 16 years ago.
I think that's what the county adopted way back when. I don't know if it mirrored the rate at that time, but apparently it's never been adjusted.
I mean, our rate is a lot cheaper, like John says, than the IRS, but the rate is pretty close to what the state pays.
In April, we talked about that.
That's the rate that was in the current personnel policy. It's not what's in the proposed personnel policy. We're going to that IRS published rate, and that's what you had presented to you today.
And that way, we never have to change it always current to that year.
Your wording would be always follow the IRS.
Yes, yes.
Michael?
It's just a simple adjustment. Once everything is approved, this can be adjusted to reflect that.
Other? Okay, consensus, good?
Yep.
Okay, another little change.
Anything else?
Anything else?
I'm good.
Any other questions about the fees? Are we pretty competitive with surrounding counties?
Yes, I mean, especially like Ash, because another mountain county neighboring, there's some we're a little more expensive, and there's some that they're up and down, but in general, we're about the same.
Okay.
Thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
all.
Parks and Recreation, Randy?
Good morning.
Morning.
Pretty much as far as our registration fees with youth sports, Lions Club, we pretty much adopted what we had been doing last year. Same way with the as far as the fairground schedule. You have a non-profit and a profit side. Of course, non-profit's a little bit less on a couple of items.
A question.
Go ahead, Sean.
I would suggest that we put a cleaning deposit on the Veterans Park shelter. I don't see one right now.
Okay, we
I
can,
mean, if someone rents it or has it and they trash it, we've got county employees that are having to go down there, so, and everything else has got a cleaning deposit on there. So
okay,
I would suggest, Mr. Chair, that we add a cleaning deposit for the Veterans Park shelter. And I do have another question.
okay.
How long has the team sponsorship been $100? Do you know?
Being that I've only been here,
I remember that, and I'm going back to whenever I was the commandant of the local Marine Corps League, and this has been 7, 8 years ago, team sponsorship was $100. We might want to go up a little bit on that inflation, taking into account inflation.
well, one thing that we do have is your team sponsorships is $125. Yep, Yeah, it's
I'm
125 and
looking-
150 for the baseball because they get a baseball hat and it's,
Right.
of course,
Okay.
costs us a little bit more.
I'm looking at the soccer and basketball.
It's still 125. Well, yes, it was 100 and we were proposing 125.
Okay, but
It's the
information
opposite.
we've got,
The proposal was lower than the current year number. That right there, if you go to the top, Drew, it's your 23, 24. And if you go to your 22, 23,
so we have misprint.
Well, one thing on that is when I started, I was under the impression that that's what was by a gentleman that was working here at that time. It was $100, so that's,
Need to clarify and adjust.
mhm.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, if those discrepancies that we pointed out are corrected.
Randy, are you wanting to stay with the same rate as the current year?
Yes, I do, being that what we spend out in certain items on those sports teams, that is costing us more because we're getting more kids out to play.
Then we need to adjust the proposal you have in your packet to the 22, 23 numbers and just
Yes,
change the
yes.
heading for the 23, 24
Yes.
as the same rates.
My apologies on that. I got-
Anything else? Greg, Tammy?
Yeah, but this might be a better conversation. Are we still in plans of trying to get some information from the Fairgrounds Committee? Like we were going to talk about some different things. I guess
I
you
think
already-
that'll be later.
Yeah. Yeah, because I guess my thought process is, and maybe I'm looking at this wrong. I mean, I'm not smart about everything, or hardly anything really. but anyway,
Sell yourself short.
But I think about, though, like the fairgrounds fees, and I see all these, and I know they've got, again, my thought process is the grounds, and if we stimulate 11,000 people to use the fairgrounds, I get that it's good, it's great to, it's great. We have a lot of different good things happen to that, but we still have to take care of those. So I don't know about and a couple of things like and this, again, this is the fairgrounds making, they're coming up with these, setting it up the way they see best for, but I see if you have 11,000 people that use their grounds, even if it's a real small admission fee, at least you can track how many people's going in, and then you can put it back on the grounds, so I guess maybe I've not known how they do things up until this point, but I just think there needs to be some thought process put in that, how to do, to go, and of course I know Michael, we've been talking about some more structural stuff, but I'm just thinking, I mean, this is fine, that's great, but I do think there needs to be some more conversation on that. That's for today, I guess.
I think part of that too is, I think we have some fairground discussions, but, I understand the thought process maybe of a parking fee, just for example, $1 or $2,
Yeah,
whatever
just
it
something
is.
small, and you can track how many people come.
Mhm.
The way it was this last time, you're guesstimating.
No, actually,
You did have a count.
we had people who stood there with tickets, and as they walked across the bridge, they threw a ticket. We had volunteers that threw a
So they
ticket in a
did try to
bucket,
take-
and then we counted the tickets.
Oh, okay.
But they ran out of some, we had a person
We had clickers.
with the
Correct.
clicker,
Yeah.
but they quit after a while.
Right.
Yeah.
But still, if you even did a dollar fee admission, I guess my thought process is grounds and taking care of our stuff. And you have 11,000 people come in, use the bathrooms, all the different things, it'd be good. I know the Fairgrounds Committee got some monies from all the different vendors, and I know they had some different income. But I'm thinking about how we can better serve that area. It's a good work.
We're working on standard operating procedure.
That's part of the conversation. Okay.
I know one of the things that we had talked about in the Fairgrounds meeting for next year, as far as Apple Pie Festival, we did bring that up, doing a very low entry fee to get in, because, from that standpoint, there was some extra revenue, of course, that we could have brought in for the Friday Pie Festival. And so that was brought up at the last meeting.
I think, like Michelle mentioned, that, we're trying to come up with some type of plan, but, what David said a while ago, 11,000 people, we generated a lot of trash.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing, but it's a bad thing that we've got to pay to get rid of the trash.
Correct.
I mean, there's a lot of hidden cost
Yeah.
that people just don't understand.
Yeah.
And all of that has to be taken into
Yeah.
some kind of plan. I think Michael's been working on some things about the fairgrounds. The parking right now is
Yeah, it's tough.
I think the biggest problem that we've got, when you've got people backed up from the fairgrounds down to Hardee's,
Track
that's a
Cruise,
problem.
Track Crave. They were backed up to Crave.
Yeah, I mean, it's, so the parking situation, if we start charging $1, whatever, we would have to have a better entrance to get people off the highway quicker. Because I've been through this, charging people to admission, and that really backs up the traffic.
Yeah.
The highway patrol's up there, doing this,
Well, you
and
really.
we're down there trying to
Yeah.
get people through.
Yeah, you really don't need to be stopping the cars for admission. You need to wait until they get out of the cars and go through the gates. Yeah, I get you there.
I think back to the fees that we're charging, I think that would come in under
Yeah, I
a
think
new
so, too.
policy
I think
possibly.
Michael's got something.
Michael?
May I make one comment? One thing to look at, and I think $1 a car is a good exploration, because in this one event, you could have covered the gravel you put down, you could have covered some of the cost incurred with the bathrooms and all that, the trash. What I think we ought to look at on that, and I know, Commissioner Bob, you talked about the backup of the traffic, but you look at, and I'll use state parks as example. State parks have festivals each year. They charge a parking fee. They have it, they're not like Chick-fil-A now. I don't want anybody to be, Chick-fil-A has the idea, they have the role model for logistics on vehicles. But state park system have different people staged at different areas to eliminate those backups. So I think whenever you're thinking about that, look at what state parks do when they have festivals and how they accommodate those parking. Because a lot of those run on major highways as well.
It also opens up, if we do that, it also opens up a possibility for Alleghany County residents to purchase a parking permit. Now, I know Brenda and I, we have lifetime access to federal parks. Cost us $15. So we've never used it in the 5 or 10 years we've got it. But if a county residents wanted to purchase a parking permit for a year, that's extra revenue coming in right there. They may not utilize it, but one time, but if we've got 20 events, we're generating some money right there that will help defray the cost and help it out to residents. Go ahead.
For the $30 per child, people who
Yes,
Were they-
normally, I mean, I wasn't, during baseball, it wasn't really asked, so typically if we get a certain group that we're getting questions on, Alleghany Cares is extremely good on doing that.
if you've got maybe
Yes.
each season, that
It does. It does, but like I said, during the, it may be something as of yet, I've not been asked, but, because we still have T-ball in, coach's pitch to go also before we roll into soccer, but normally soccer is one of those sports that we traditionally need help on.
I just don't want to see any child not be able to play because
Absolutely.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, give us numbers. What are we looking at? Right now, we're looking at T-ball, we're looking at softball, we're looking
Right
at,
now, my numbers on baseball, with, T-ball and coach's pitch starting up, I've got right now playing 154 kids. That's baseball and softball. What I think I'll end up with is somewhere between 2 to 215. I think is what last year, if you go by what we did last year, they were 6 teams per group, 6 on T-ball, they were 6 at coach's pitch, so you're averaging 13 kids or so per team. So you're going to be somewhere in that, I think 215 so range, and the numbers in that particular sport has really increased, which is a great thing for the community and kids and everybody concerned.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
We're Fairgrounds, or advertising. Is that correct?
fairgrounds.
Yep.
Fairgrounds fees.
Like I said, on the, as far as the schedule goes on the fairgrounds, we do have a profit, nonprofit margin, but that pretty much stayed the same as what we had adopted last year.
Questions? Got one on the fairgrounds on the fee schedule. What's the policy when they use the show barn of who's responsible for putting sawdust down, buying it and putting it down, and who's responsible for disposing of it? You've got nonprofit and you've got profit.
Well, since I've been here, I have not rented it out to a profit. I've only people that has used that facility with shavings and all that combined would be the as far as our 4-H, our youth. It was a big youth cattle show, and they pretty much Aaron Ray and that group took the shavings out and put the new shavings back in. So, and that's, I guess, a policy I need to look at to see, because I really don't know what the county policy is on that.
When they fill out the form, isn't there a statement someplace that to leave it like they found it?
Yes, there is. There is a statement on there that just like we rent the Veterans Park or any of our facilities, that they're responsible for the trash.
Or you're getting ready to have a profit show up there with the Fiber Fest. Now, they'll
Yes.
use, who's going to be responsible
They would
for
be,
putting that down and removing it to some location?
is, I mean, they would be responsible, of course, for their trash, but I guess, being they don't have access to the tractor, as far as the sawdust and stuff, I would assume that would fall back on the county because, one of our guidelines on tractor is, I mean, we just don't let anybody come into the fairgrounds and use our tractor. I guess that's, my point.
Where do you dispose of it?
That I don't know. I mean, I know where it's been disposed of in the lot past.
That's going to be something that
I mean, that's been an ongoing problem for years.
I mean, I know where it was disposed of last year, let me put it that way, over there to the side. And so, yes, I mean, that's probably something we do need to discuss, and or there could
Thank
be
you.
a charge on that.
Go ahead, ask.
Are you the one that does the inspection after they get done and see if the trash is sufficiently clean?
Yes.
Have y'all had to keep any of the deposits? Well, you haven't been doing that job very long.
The only, as far as fairgrounds, I have not had any issues at all in any of
Time
the
to clean.
events. The fire departments or whoever having an event going on has done a very good job on
The
doing that.
500.
And I've had some issues at Veterans and at the Lions Club. One of the incidents, they didn't rent it. I mean, it's still a public park, and they can still go up there and have a birthday party. They're just taking chances somebody may have had it reserved. I did have that, but I've really not had any issues at all as far as fairgrounds goes.
I guess the $500 is sufficient, because it must.
Yeah, 'cause we have the dumpster up there, so they have a place to take the trash, whatever trash they may accumulate for the event.
Michael?
Just a general question, when we're talking about the profits and nonprofits, I know we mentioned 4-H and we have different, they have showings and they have different things there as well. For our records, do they fill out an application?
They fill out an application, yes.
So they're bound by the same conditions that any other.
Yes, yes, if they do a livestock show or the ag fair or, whatever, yes.
Any other questions? Okay. Advertiser?
These here were set prior to me getting here, on the, or the grandstand, gold package, silver package, and all this. It did stay the same, but since I've been here, which is fairly short, coming up on a year, I've not had any of that advertising.
Michael?
So I guess the only question I have about the advertisement is more related to the digital sign. For the most recent Apple Pie Festival,
Mhm.
that was a one-time event.
Mhm.
And there was a fee or what type of advertising on the digital sign went along with that event?
Typically, if somebody, which I've got to get up there, but if for this weekend, the figure eight race, I will advertise that there is a figure eight race, or I will, whatever the event may be, I will put up on the digital sign that we're having that event. I guess amongst the conversations that we had in the Fairgrounds Committee that, that they was going, we would put the sponsors on there for that event. Typically, I do not put the sponsors on those signs. I put the event itself that's happening. Just like right now, I have Fiberfest, their logo and their advertising on there. It's getting ready to happen. And you know, sometimes I'll put stuff for the county, whether it's baseball signups or, you know.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is these sponsors that help put on these events, they're getting their names put on that sign
Mm-hmm.
for whatever the fee is for the rental. Yes, that's my question. If it's a one-time event, do they get a week? How long do they get in promoting of that event on that sign, I guess is my question.
Well, I can, because the only time this has really happened is with this Apple Pie Festival, and I guess they got close to a month of advertising, because that's about when we put the advertise for the Fried Apple Pie Festival, and then they had started sending me logos.
I think it's something we ought to look at, because that is something that, you know, for the minimum rental of the fairgrounds, if they're getting that type of advertising, I think that's something we ought to look at.
Absolutely. Agreed. Agreed.
Questions? Comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
Chair, since we have reached a break in the agenda, I would recommend that we take 10 minutes for the disbursement and replenishment of beverages.
Well, I'll call recess, be back here at 10 after 12. 9 minutes.
7 minutes.
Thank you.
thing, same form.
Here.
Yep. Plus lot. Done.
It?
That's it. Oh, I need that check, though.
Need what?
A check.
I gave you two.
Oh, you did? You did?
Only had two.
What'd I do with it? No, you kept it because you gave me the one for the paper, but we didn't write the other one because I know.
Give you cash? I'll bring a check by tomorrow.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That's
Just
fine.
leave it at the front.
Yeah. Here's the amount. Make it to the clerk. Whatever.
Okay, we'll come out of recess and get back on the agenda. Let's see. And that's April Ham. Been up there all day.
Yeah. Now, good afternoon. The first thing I have is a budget amendment. This is for school capital outlay. This is the sales tax revenue. There's two specific articles that come in with revenue, and portions of those articles go to the school system for capital outlay. I'm estimating $350,000 more coming in, and we just need to add it to that expenditure transfer line. It actually transfers through our general fund to a separate fund for that school capital.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. No, we're ready. All those in favor, aye. Likewise, sign for nay. Got it, 5-0. Next.
Okay, and then I have a line item transfer. This was provided by the Sheriff's Department. This is for jail meals, food and provisions for the detention center in the amount of $23,560. And you have each line that it's coming from spelled out in that printout for you.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. Motion carries. Likewise.
Thank you.
That's it.
Chairman.
Michael.
April, you may mention that there will be at least one other amendment
There
for
will
that.
be at least one other line item transfer coming in for jail meals, because this is not going to cover the rest of the year. So we'll be looking for some more money and bringing it back to the board.
And the estimated amount will be,
My estimate is about $18,000 more to get us to the end of the year. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. Item 2, North Carolina DOT, Michael.
your last meeting, I in the information section, provided you with the information regarding 3 parcels DOT was wanting to acquire. I mentioned having a resolution for consideration at this meeting, which is on page 108 of your agenda packet. Since they have pinned all these together, and the amount of $28.50 is the correct amount based on items B, C, and D of the same. What I would ask today is consideration for the adoption of the resolution first, and if so, then individual adoption or approvals of B, C, and D listed on your agenda.
You've heard the request from,
Motion to authorize the sale of property, Mr. Chair.
just 1 second.
Sorry. We're talking about item B.
Good to go.
On A,
Yes?
on the resolution. Okay. Drew just mentioned that item B in your packet has the wrong address,
Physical address.
but we have a corrected one now, so we will make that change with, if the motion could read with the appropriate correction made, we can proceed.
With the corrections made.
Yes.
We have a motion on A right now, the authorization for sale with the second, sir.
Bill, then John.
That's for the resolution?
For the resolution, yes.
For A, B,
A only.
A only.
just doing one.
I guess there was confusion. We thought the resolution was already done. Thank you, Commissioner John, so you have a motion and a second on A.
And we voted on that.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Are you ready then, Michelle? Drew? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed likewise. Motion carries.
So now we're on the first.
E.
Motion to approve the right-of-way on tip partial BR 001013 with the correction noted.
Second.
Motion and a second. Waiting on. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. C.
As presented. As presented in your packet.
Motion for C as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries 5-0. One more.
D is as presented also.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those, wait a minute. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed likewise. Motion carries 5-0. That should do all of those. Then we move to item 3, and Fairgrounds Stables Demolition, County Manager Michael Carter.
At the retreat, we talked about a few things fairgrounds related. One item that we went into detail about was the stables located at the fairgrounds. And I know that there have been a number of people, both inside this room and outside this room, that have looked at those stables. We all certainly understand the historical portion of how they were put there and why they were put there. But the fact, I believe the consensus of everyone is that those existing stables, from a construction standpoint, are just beyond their prime. So after speaking with different ones and the board as a consensus, I think we have come up with the idea that those stables need to be torn down or appropriately removed from the premises. And I know that David Spicer is still in the room. He's had communication about doing some different things with those, but the overall consensus is those stables need to be demolished. And since the Board of Commissioners own that property, I wanted to put that before you today for consideration. I know that we've talked about it, but to get the formal go-ahead, I know David is lined up to do that once we have that approval. So I would ask for consideration on the demolition of those stables today.
Any discussion? Need a motion and a second.
Motion to remove the stables from the fairgrounds.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Now we move to section E, county manager's comments, April building inspections, page 118 plus.
I've got several today, Mr. Chairman, so I'll do them as quickly as I can. You're aware of the inspection report. I encourage you to review that. Secondly, May 21st through the 27th. David, you can account for this, but that's National EMS Week. So we certainly want to take the time to appreciate and recognize and acknowledge those individuals. The next item, concession stand RFP. You know, we put that thing back out. Did not get a response. So Drew and I are going to talk about that a little later today. It costs you about $50 every time you put that thing out in the newspaper. So far we've got $100 out there and got nothing to show for it. So we'll talk a little more about that and bring you back something at your next meeting. But you had no response. I mentioned it earlier. I had met with the BDC board last week. They're working through some things. They've asked me to come back in June. So we'll carry that discussion forward. I have received the AIA agreement from R&D. I gifted that to Heather this morning. Hopefully we'll have something to bring back to you at your June 5th meeting, but on the surface it's a standard boilerplate AIA, but it is for the courthouse, and that'll get that project kicked off. We've talked about, I guess, several times over the last 6 months about the roof at 90 South Main. That seems to be it just keeps floating to the top. What I think is best for the county is that we go ahead and solicit for contractors to provide a roof replacement for that facility. And I'd actually like to go ahead and do that. And regardless if it turns out the state pays for that or not, we need to get that going because I don't want that to be a holdup. I've identified from the onset that it would surprise me if that's covered. I think that's going to be something the county is going to have to pay for. I would like to go ahead and do it and at least have that awarded. And we'll put that out probably tomorrow and see what kind of interest we get from local contractors or contractors in general so that we can move forward on that project. The next one, another topic we talked about is our loader, and I'm glad that David didn't have any type of communication on our loader today. I put a smiley face beside that, David. But we have spoken with another equipment provider, and just to give you an idea, a comparable wheel loader from another provider for that facility. If I put my name on that loader today, it would be a year before we would get it. That's what the status of that type of equipment is. Now, we could change our thinking on it, and Excavators are readily available. There's 5 sitting in close proximity right now. So David doesn't know this because I only had the phone call this morning, but here in the next week or two, David, you and I are going to take a little field trip, and we're going to go look at some different equipment that may provide us with a solution. I'll put it that way. Next one is the fuel oil contracts, which are due. We're going to put that out, and that is for the DSS crisis and the county fuel oil. So we'll have that RFP out and hopefully have that back for you at your next June meeting. And that will get us back on a fiscal year rotation, which is what we strive to make all these agreements go. And finally, there are 2 items that we need to get back on your June 5th that we talked about. Heather and I, we need to finalize the Fire Commission resolution, so we'll get that taken care of. And Drew and I will put together the board's rules of procedures that we've talked about, and we'll have those back, both of those back for information and review so that you can look at those, alter those, and hopefully consider those at the mid-June meeting. That's all I have today.
Thank you. Start with Greg today for commissioners' comments.
I think we need to listen to our veterinarian in the county, and the county stay out of the cattle business and let the state handle it. Also, I think the county don't need to be in the business of naming roads. All I got.
Thank you. Tammy? Michelle?
I'd like to say congratulations to the 2023 graduates, and we expect big things out of you guys. And also, there is a demolition derby coming up on Friday and Saturday night at the Fairgrounds. Friday night, I believe, is qualifying, and Saturday night is the big show. So everybody come on out for that.
Runner blue forward in it, or?
No.
Oh. John?
As everyone if you watch this session, you see that there are many things that the county government has to confront. One of the things that you don't realize is with the animal control that we could end up in the situation we're in right now where the animals are evidence and we end up taking care of them. That's out of our hands. It's got to be done. It's something you cannot plan for, and it's just something that we have to do. The other thing that I would like to point out to everyone, we think that the next election, since it's in November of 2024, that it's over the horizon. However, whenever I spoke with the Elections Commission this morning, right now, filing will be in December. That's almost 6 months away. The primary will be in March, and then the November 2024 election. I will not be a candidate as it stands right now. So for those people that you think you know everything and that you can do it better, here is your opportunity. If you're going to run your mouth and put up or shut up, start thinking about it. I will tell you real quickly that whenever you get into this job, you find out that your powers are limited. Basically, you're talking about a budget. That's the extent. And very little of the budget can you change. So it was an eye-opener whenever I got in. I realized that I had let my bulldog mouth overload my puppy dog Fanny. So you will experience it yourself if you want to stand. I will tell you there are benefits. You will find out about every horse thief and crook that was in your family. If you want to know your genealogy, file for an office. But as I said, as it stands right now, I have absolutely no intention of filing, so that will be one seat that is available. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I mean, there's no use to go over the fried apple pie festival. It was great for everybody. Fried apple pie. Yeah. So I think that was it showcased our fairgrounds. And I think hopefully here you can't change everything overnight, but in the next couple of years, I look for some big changes at the fairgrounds so we can have more and more of these events. These events just promote other events if people are happy. If people are upset with them, then it's bad news for us. I think it was one day last week we had a meeting with a group from Raleigh. I believe there's 12 or 13 people. It's called Hometown Strong. They answered a lot of questions and presented some very interesting ideas. It's a government funded by Governor Cooper started this a few years ago, that these people deal with highway problems, they deal with mental health problems, they deal with recreation problems. It's just all sorts of groups that we can now utilize. These people, they've gone to every county in the nearby area, telling what they can do to help local governments, and especially small governments, small communities. So I look forward to a good relationship with them. I think part of the fairgrounds discussion in the near future will be, as everybody knows, we have to have 3 available courtrooms. Right now we have our old courtroom, we have the annex building, and our backup is the black building. But I think there's a strong sentiment to change that 3rd option to a different location, because there's a lot of challenges at the black building if it was to be used as a courtroom. And as it looks now, the old courthouse is going to be closed, or the courtroom is going to be closed for multiple months. So it's going to fall on the annex, and if something was to happen, we still have to have that 3rd backup. So we're going to be dealing with that in the near future. And then I'm sorry to say that our superintendent of schools, Chad Beasley's going to be retiring after 30-some years in the school system. I think he's done a great job for Alleghany County, and I congratulate him on what he's done. I sort of upset with him for leaving us, but he's got plans, and I think his wife's got more plans for him than he does. So we're going to miss him. So with that being said, we need to go into closed session, request for closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318, 11A-3 to consult with an attorney. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and second. All those in favor, raise your hand. Thank you.